Yo! All right. Let's talk about how to make an asteroid and a way we can do that pretty quickly without sucking up too much of our time. Um, so the process is pretty easy, and it doesn't even really require too many brushes if you don't want to use them. We will go over some brushes, but actually you can get a pretty nice looking rock slash asteroid shape without doing too much. So we'll do something like this. I just did this one. It didn't take too long, so we will start over from scratch. Let's hide all this nonsense. Let's start with our sphere. First thing I'm going to do is just start pulling stuff out. I'm not going to turn symmetry on because who cares? It's an asteroid. I don't really care about too much as far as shape. It looks like a Chinese star. Why? Why do you look like that? Okay, so this is sort of bulbous. So the first thing I usually do, because I start with a sphere, and one of the first things I do anyway. Let's sort of just like chunk this guy up a little bit. Okay, that's good enough, I think. Don't get too caught up in the original, like the initial. Just make it, something that's, it's going to float through space. So, I make something that's sort of like the shape of a bean. Doesn't matter. And then I like to get rid of this topology right away because this is garbage. We're obviously going to redo it later anyway, but even just to start, I don't like starting that way. So I usually take this and I'll do Z-remesh at like 2000 just to get this. So now this is something nice and pretty sculptable. So I will divide this 3 times. Maybe I'll stick with 3, maybe not. So I either will use clay buildup or clay tubes. They both have very similar styles. Clay buildup is just more aggressive. So let's move along with that. So let's use clay buildup. So I'm going to sort of randomly push in some areas and pull out in others. And I'm not really giving much thought, to be honest, in what's what. Sometimes it's nice, you can like sort of carve out like a little section or something. But and I'm doing this so I'm starting to get like, not only alter the shape a bit, but I'm also sort of like creating all these little planes. The planes are good because we're going to use the H polish in a little bit. And you can do different scales. So like don't stick with one scale for your brush size. Just do a couple of different ones. That way you get some different reads. But then also sometimes you can go in and use a pretty big guy. Cool. So I like doing little carvings and cutouts. Sort of makes it look a little more interesting, I think. Okay, so now we have a potato flying through space. Now I'm going to use H polish, and I'm going to keep my brush size sort of big enough that it can affect sort of large enough areas so that this doesn't take forever. And so H polish basically tries its best to like maintain edges. And so this is a cool brush to use because you can start very quickly getting that sort of rocky, hard chipped edge look, which is freaking sweet. I can put nice little planes in here for catching light, all kinds of cool stuff. And the cool thing too with this is, like, I mean, depending on how serious you need to get with this asset, it might not be something that's too close to camera. I mean, you can basically just do this. It's for real. I don't know how far we're in. What are we, like 3 or 4 minutes in? And you can kind of be done with it. Like, to be completely honest, you can do this. You use this for your normal maps, and then throw a rock texture on it, and then you're kind of good. We'll take it past that point. We'll do something a little more detailed, but it depends how far it is from camera. So this is cool. You start seeing how we start getting some nice little chips and formations and stuff. And those carving, those little cutouts I did now are starting to, like, pay dividends later, because now, you know, we have something that can catch a light in a couple of cool ways. This is a little bit too round for me. Not too into this. I'll probably even cut this out a little bit more. None of this really makes any difference because I'm going to use some stencils in a second. That's better though. It's not quite so round and ridiculous. So this is our sort of basic shape. By the way, another way you could do that is you could just do a, what is it, deformation. You could do like an H polish or a polish, whatever it is. You can polish by feature, polish by group, polish crisp edges. So I could crank this up and see, well, okay, that's diggity dog shit, but, you know, polish by features. You might need more polygons to this. This is actually still quite low, actually. But I like working low in the beginning. So this is a nice shape to start with. So I'm going to divide this again, which is going to give me some slightly harder edges. So we are at 443,000 polys for this right now. So that's fine by me. I'm just going to try and get rid of some of these sort of striations we ended up with from the brush. So you'll notice too, like, as I stepped up, like, now I'm getting even crisper edges, which is nice. In fact, I might have started too low. You know, you can just step up a little bit in the beginning. Okay. Holla! We got a rock. So we got a nice looking little rock. So now, okay, so going past this point, I would suggest getting some nice alphas. You can go onto ArtStation and you can just search rock alphas and you can install as many alphas as you want. There are plenty of them that are free. All right, so I'm going to start with my standard brush and I'm going to load an alpha. So let's try this guy. And you can see if I do this, it looks bananas. It's too much. Okay. Let's use the add instead of subtract. That'll start giving me something I want. So now we're starting to get something cool. Sweet. Okay, so let's find a spot to put this bad boy. Cool. Now we got a serious looking asteroid. So just double check. So, you know, because we're looking at it like this, and it's like, oh, it looks really cool. But actually, the resolution's probably not enough. So let me just double check. So if I zoom in, you see we're dealing with some drama. And this thing's very low. It's 443. So let's divide twice. So now we're at 2,000,000, whoa, 25 million. Is that right? 25,950,000? Yeah. Okay. So maybe I went a little too high. But actually, who cares? All right, sorry, my phone is ringing. Okay, so this looks pretty cool. We've got a couple other choices here for this one that aren't quite as aggressive. So I'm going to start with these. And again, it's good to have different scales for these. And don't make it cartoonish where it's like, you know, they're everywhere. put 3 or 4 main like features on your asteroid, which I think these look pretty cool. And then, you know, maybe a few smaller divots for scale. Let's increase our intensity again, actually. Let's change our, let's do this guy. That's a nice one. The one thing I would say to be careful about is try not to get too much high frequency detail, because sometimes these get a little crazy and it's like, well, it ends up looking like noise. Okay, so this is probably okay. We've got a few major divots. We've got a big beefy guy here. I'm gonna maybe populate 1 or 2 more just for fun. All right, so here's our cool asteroid. Maybe that's nice. Because I feel like this side needs like a little something, something. So cool, now we got our cool asteroid that's flying through space and being very asteroidy. Okay. What else do we need? Anything? I think that's good. Okay, so we're good. I basically never work in layers in ZBrush because I think the layer system is dog shit. But at this point, if you do like layers or something, maybe you would throw your detail layer in a separate layer. And you could put these in a separate layer as well. So the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of block these out so that I'm not going over them. This one came out cool. I like this one because it's big. You don't have to be too particular about this, but generally I'll just do this and then be done with it. Oops. Go. All right. And that's just so when I put some of this high frequency detail on, higher frequency detail, I'm not like, you know, destroying my cool little craters. Okay, so I've preloaded some of these. I'm not sure. My recommendation is to load things in your lightbox. So there's a lot of videos on how to get things to show up in your lightbox. But then once they're in there, basically you have, you know, you can access folders. It's basically just a browser, and it'll show you these PSD files. So I have some of these preloaded. Let's just shop around and see what we got. So first things first, it's for me, I'll go through and just do some trial and error. Let's just look and see what we get. Some of these. Okay, that's absolutely horrible. Also, it's going the wrong direction. This is absolutely not what I want. This one's nice. There's just way too much going on. So that might be kind of cool. The first thing I'm looking for me personally is probably large detail, which we already did, and then we sort of scale down after that. This is a really cool alpha, but it doesn't seem very asteroid-like. This one's pretty nice, actually. So one of the things I would avoid is, it's very easy to just do this and go, cool, let's just add tons of high frequency detail everywhere. But then you sort of lose opportunities to make interesting little, you know, specific interesting areas. So I am going to go through and use most likely this texture or maybe this one. Granted, their intensity is way too high. You know, like, so we can start covering massive ground here. Okay, so those are pretty nice. I'm still shopping. So you see how this is a little more interesting than just the random high frequency detail. This seems to have a purpose, like, you know, it's not just white noise, you know, blasting. So this is nice. I like this. It's got a little bit of directionality to it. You can see it's sort of going like horizontally across the asset. Again, I'm going to do things with scale where I'm like using much larger versions. Now, okay, so you got to be really careful. So again, if I zoom in, you start going, all right, well, there's actually a lot of shenanigans afoot. So, okay, these are really cool. I'm just still exploring with intensities and stuff. Because you want to push it, but you don't want to push it so far that, you know, you're sort of breaking your... This is an interesting look. I'm sort of okay with this so far. So you see we're actually getting a little bit more bang for our buck by not pushing it too far either, which is good. So I'm just going to do some mass coverage, I think. I think I'm okay with sticking with this as sort of a base for now. Which one is this? This one's pretty good. This is... why doesn't it tell me the name? That's annoying. Okay. You can also see now, like, why are we masking out these craters so that we can sort of move quick. Cool. Let's put this about here. Cool. Let me just go to my masking for a second and turn off a few masks so I can see what this thing looks like. Looks pretty cool. So I would say we've overused that at this point. There's a couple ways. I like dragging these, but I could also just as easily take this and sort of like stipple this on. But then, you know, you got to really be careful because now we're really just getting into some white noise territory. Let me see what this one is. This one's not bad, but see, I have a problem when you get into this like chunky pixelated. There's just no fall off. And so that's not great. So this is another one of those types of textures that's very generic. I can sort of use it everywhere to fill in a couple gaps just to get some like information. On an area, but there's really not much detail in this in terms of like interest. Like this other one's cool. It's got like little pebbles and stuff. I like all that stuff. All right, now something else we can do. Let's go to, I believe this is our cracks. So let's really crank this guy up. See what we get. So this is pretty cool. It's just too intense. I like this one, but it's just not rendering well. This guy. Oh, this is that cool one, except for it just doesn't look very. Ah, this was the good one. Okay, alpha 14, mental note 14. We like 14. So let's tone this down a bit. So this is cool. This is much better. So now we're starting to get some cool information in here. Especially in these like big areas where there's not that much going on. I mean, there's noise information, but like on this little tip, we can do something. Oh my God, so cool. Okay, let's turn off clear our masks for a minute. So if you want to sort of hit these interiors, like if they're too smooth, maybe I'll hit just a little bit, like in these. This one's really cool. This is a really cool alpha. Well done. You know, and you can sort of almost manually at this point go in and start leading like cracks from like this area to the little blast fall off area where all this sort of impacted. Just so you have a few. Going from the base of the asteroid, the main part of the asteroid, up into the rim of the crater. Okay, very cool. Do a little something here, or maybe not. Boom, done. Check that out. Not too bad, and didn't take long at all. Just going to add a little bit of noise on these couple smooth areas. I just want to make sure we don't have any overtly smooth sections. This is actually pretty nice alpha, like if you really want to like jack up an area. Let's tone it down a bit though. Cool. Cool, here's our space potato, our space spud. What else we got? Anything else? Anything else? At this point, we're just noodling, to be honest. We're done. Okay, so now how do we take this to final? Okay, so first of all, okay, so I want to retopo this again. So I want to retopo it again because the dimensions of it has changed and we have very clear lines of like where loops maybe want to be circular and following the terrain of this asteroid a lot better. So this is the, let me just rename this. So we'll call this asteroid B high. So I'm going to make a duplicate of this guy. And I'm going to call this asteroid B low. So asteroid B low, all I'm going to do is basically z-remesh this, which might take a second because it's 25 million polys. Where does we go? We go to zero measure. So I'm going to keep the target poly count around 2,000 and just see where that gets us. I'm going to hit zero mesh, and I'm going to wait for my system to chug through this. So that took 2 minutes 59 seconds, but you can see the difference now. So now we have a really nice mesh. This is a great low poly mesh. So even if we were to not use normal maps, you know, and this was just something you apply to rock texture to because it's going to be far away or something like this. This is nice. It catches light much better. The topology is much better. Next thing we want to do is project onto this guy. So we are going to, all right, so I always, I'm actually not 100% sure. I believe it has to be on top. Regardless, I always do it the same way. I put the one on top that I'm projecting onto the one below. I don't think I've ever even tried to do it any other way, but so I have asteroid B low on top, which is this guy, and I have asteroid B high, which is below it. And I want to project now. So I'm just going to say project all. But I like doing that. I like stepping up each time. So here's our base mesh. So I'm going to divide one time. I'm going to turn this on. Now here's a little pro tip that I like. So both of these are on right now, but I'm going to press solo. So I have asteroid B low selected, and I'm going to press solo. And because I have solo, this is the only one that I'm viewing right now. The other one is still there, which is why I can still project, but it allows me to just see the results of my projection. So I'm going to say project all. It'll be very quick. This already looks better. By the way, if you have LODs, this is a fantastic way to do LODs. So LOD1 is here. LOD2 is here, and so on and so on. I've done this several times on projects where I need 2 or 3 different LODs, and each step up is just a new LOD in terms of poly count, which is good. If you were to do that process for some reason, you would just need to UV it at this level first. So at this point, we would UV it, then we would divide and project, and then divide and project, and then you're good. And your normal maps will always work every step of the way. So I'm going to divide again and project again. I'm going to divide again, project again. So we'll divide again. And project. So it's going to start taking a little bit longer now as we step up. Now it's starting to look pretty good. So we're at 792,000. It already looks pretty okay, but we're going to divide again. We're going to project again. Make sure when you're projecting in these steps, you're sort of zooming in a little bit and taking a look at it. You're not just looking at it at a distance. Because you don't want your normal map to come in like aluminum foil, you know, where it's really noisy and stuff. And so, by the way, the reason why I step up in iterations like this is just for the accuracy of the lower poly mesh. I really want it to hug in the correct areas. If I just divide by, you know, 6 times and then project it one fat time at the end, you can do that, and it may work sometimes, it may not. But those first 2 or 3 step ups will help really organize the mesh to get in these cracks better than if you just subdivided it all at once. So this looks pretty good. Let me see what we're at. So we're at 3,169,000. So I'm going to step up one more time. So you can see the difference in detail. This is the high poly one. This is the low poly one. So this is why we're going to step up again. Because it looks nice, but we still got some more we can go. So now we're at about 13 million. And let's project one last time. This will be the last time. And we're back. Cool. Okay, so that took a few minutes to project. So we are good to go now. This looks really fantastic. So now at this point, I would go in. This is more of a final asset at this point. So the other one was just something that we were producing our original sculpt on. This is the real asset at this point. And so our lowest res mesh, this is our base mesh. And so this is what you would bring into your engine or substance painter or whatever. And we can generate our normal maps with this guy. Now there's a couple things, you know, So this is a bit mushy in here, and it's mushy because the original was also mushy. So I'm just going to sort of go in, sort of manually. Even that, I'm not a fan of that. Let me tighten this up a little bit. Make this draw size a little smaller. So I'm using the Damien Standard, also known as Dam Standard. Hilarious name. What are we doing, guys? So I can also, if I want, let's say, if I wanted to sharpen this edge, I would reverse that and get some of these nice, crisp edges here. This is actually probably way too much. So let's do like this. And this is stuff I would do at the end just to sort of tighten these up because we don't want a mushy looking asteroid. So even this, like, see this little like indication we're getting here of some height. So I'll tighten that up, maybe even put a little, crevice in here. So that reads way better. You start getting these like nice little light hits and stuff. So same thing, this is a really blobby, hot mess. So I'll tighten some of this. Maybe. Now, 99% of the time, you're probably never going to need to do this. This is all very much like nitpicky stuff that, this thing would be getting pretty close to the camera or something. But it's a good practice anyway. And by the way, this doesn't take very long. I mean, all told, this will be like a 25-minute asset to get to this point or something. Okay. Okay, there's no other egregious offenders as far as I'm concerned at the moment. So let's move on. All right, so the last step with this guy is, let's step all the way down. This is our low poly. Where's my floor? Hold on, I need my floor for a second. I'm all turned around. Okay, it looks like a heart actually. All right, so let's open up our Z plugin. And we're gonna do a quick UV on this because there's no reason really to leave ZBrush just for UVing something like this, especially something like this. This is basically a potato that needs to get UV'd. So in order to UV it, we're going to work on clone. So I wish you didn't have to do this. It's an annoying additional step. I'm not 100% sure why this is necessary, but it seems to be necessary. So we're going to say work on clone, which is going to clone it, take you out of your subtool space. It makes a new subtool. And all we're going to do is say unwrap. We're not going to do anything. I'm just going to say unwrap. So done, it's unwrapped. I'm not a fan of it putting that seam right through that cool crater, but let's take a look at what we got. So this is our unwrap for this. And now we're going to copy these UVs. We're going to go down to our actual asset, which is asteroid below. And we are going to paste UVs. And if I want to check this, oh yeah, it's got subdivision levels. Okay, well, rest assured, it has those UVs pasted for now. I don't want to get rid of my subdivision levels because I need them there. And boom, here we go. Now, if I want, if we want to check this, we want to render our normal maps. So let's just go to UV map. Just so we don't wait very long at all. Actually, it goes very quickly anyway. Let's just do a 4096, screw it. And then let's go to our normal map. And then we're going to say create a normal map. So there we go. This is our normal map that it created. And we are done. This also, by the way, proves that we have UVs, which is good. So now we have a normal map, we have a level 1, and we have our high-res asset. Good to go. Holla! Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Peace!